Welcome back, viewers. So today I'll be talking about IELTS Writing Module, Academic Writing Task 1, Charts, Graphs and Tables, and this is the Part 1 video of the 3 videos that we will be having for Academic Writing Task 1 for Charts, Graphs and Tables. And we are going to have a separate set of videos for Academic Writing Task 1 Process Diagrams. So let's get on with the video. I'm your tutor Tahmid from Lekhapora Online. Hope you guys like this video. So firstly, I'd like to give you an overview of the writing module and what it consists. So the writing module is typically going to test your writing skill and how well you can write a response effectively, how well you can organize your ideas by using a range of vocabulary and grammatical skills. So the IELTS writing and reading tests are different in academic and general training tests. So there are two set of tests. Academic tests, which are usually suitable for anyone who is entering a university or professional institution. So for example, you are a student graduating from high school and you're going to be applying to universities or college. So you're going to have to sit for this exam as the English proficiency exam. And usually most people give academic tests in regards to general training tests, which are usually less popular and not many people sit for these general training tests. And general training tests contains of topics based on general interest, and not many people actually give this test. So for the academic writing, the writing module structure is basically, it's a formal style writing, and there are going to be 2 questions, Task 1 and Task 2. In Task 1, you will be presented with graphs, tables, charts, or process diagrams, and you will be asked to describe the details and make comparisons where relevant. So you might have to describe and explain the data, describe the stages of a process, or how something works. And in Task 2, you will be asked to write an essay in response to a point of view, argument, or problem. You should find the issues interesting and easy to understand. So we are going to have separate videos for Task 2, and this only emphasizes on Task 1. So the timing of the test, so the whole IELTS writing test is 60 minutes. So we advise that you should spend 20 minutes for Task 1 and 40 minutes for Task 2. And this is because Task 2 contains double the marks for Task 1. And also, there is one more thing that I'm going to show you is the word limit. So the word limit for Task 1 is at least 150 words, and the word limit for Task 2 is 250 words. So as you can see, you have to spend more time on Task 2 than you spend on Task 1. So that's why we suggest that you should spend 20 minutes for Task 1 and 40 minutes for Task 2. And the marks is basically your IELTS writing exam will be marked by a certified IELTS examiner, and you are usually gonna get marks in whole bands or half bands. So you're never gonna see marks like 6.4, 7.4, or 7.7. So you're either gonna see whole figures like 6, 7, 8, or in 0.5, 7.5, 6.5, like that. So the format for general training writing is more or less the same. So you're going to have 2 tasks, Task 1, Task 2, and the tests are of general interest usually. So Task 1, you will be presented with a situation, and you will be asked to write a letter requesting information on explaining the situation. You can write the letter in a personal, semi-formal, or formal style. So previously, academic writing it has to be in formal style, but here you have the liberty. In Task 2, you will be asked to write an essay in response to a point of view, argument, or problem. So this is similar to academic training. And the timing is the same, 60 minutes in total. So spend 20 minutes for Task 1 and 40 minutes for Task 2. We are going to have detailed videos for general training writing, so that's why I'm not going into much details. So this is also the same. The word limit and the marks are also the same for this task. So now we move on to the main agenda of our video, which is Academic Writing Task 1, Charts, Graphs and Tables. We will be having a separate set of videos for process diagrams and this video is the part 1 video for task 1, charts, graphs and tables, and it's the part 1 video from the 3 videos that we will be having, and this video is on the planning process which you should have before you start writing. So a couple of key points that I should go about is, firstly, as I have already mentioned, you should spend 20 minutes for task 1 and you should divide your time accordingly, and you should divide the writing of your task 1 in 3 steps basically, and that's how our videos are going to be structured as well. So you're going to have to plan first, and a lot of people may think that, okay, I only have 20 minutes, I'll just look at the chart and start writing, but that's not how you should go about it, because that's how you're going to make a lot of mistakes and you will have no real direction for your work. So if you spend about 5 minutes on planning, the writing part will be very easy, and revising your work is as important as planning. So that's why step 3 is to ensure that you have mentioned everything properly and to go through over your work. So the length of the writing should be at least 150 words. You can obviously write more, but there is no need to write unnecessary stuff. You can perfectly write a task 1 essay within 160 words, and that should be good enough. The exam, you're not going to be awarded bonus marks for writing more than 150 words. If you want to write more than 150 words, you obviously can, but there is no great need. So a couple of tips. So you should only use the information which is provided to you. Do not use your opinion or information from outside. And as this is a task which involves a graphic, so you should ask yourself questions like what the graph is about, what are the main features of the graph, and what you can write about. So in order to receive a good score, you should address all parts of the task. You should accurately summarize the information, make meaningful comparisons, and with a brief overview of the information, use correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation, write incomplete sentences, use your own words, and avoid copying direct sentences from the topic or the instruction. That is something you should strictly maintain. You should write everything, whether you are writing something regarding the topic, you should write it in your own words and avoid using direct words or phrases from the task. So, as this video is on planning process, the planning process can be divided into a couple of steps. So the first one is to address the task. You have to understand what the task is about, what the graph is asking you to do. You need to determine the topic. You have to understand what the graph is about. And then you make notes about the comparison. So remember, they're going to tell you to describe the relevant information in your own words and make comparisons where possible. So you have to note down the comparisons, and then you have to note down the details under each comparison. So, lesson 1, addressing the task. So in task 1, you will see a graphic. It can be a chart, it can be a table, it can be a process diagram as well. So you will be asked to describe the information shown in the graph and make comparisons where relevant. So you must immediately, as soon as you see the graph, you have to understand what the graph is about. What type of graph is it? Is it a bar chart? As you can see on the top right corner, is it a line chart? Is it a pie chart? Or is it a table? So here I have given you different types of graphs which are usually given during the exams. So you have to know what type of graph is it, and you have to be familiar with the different types of graphs. So then the next step is to determine the topic. So you will be asked to summarize the information in the graph in your own words with detailed information, and you have to make comparisons where necessary. So the main features, identifying the main features of the graph will help you to make those details and make those comparisons. So in order to identify the details of the graph, first read the task and identify the type of the graph. So first and foremost, once you see the graph, you read the instruction on the top of a graph. I'll show you an example of a question in the next slide, but I'm telling you what you have to do as soon as you see the graph. So as soon as you see the graph, you read the instruction in the graph on the top of the graph, and then you look at the graph type, what the graph type is. And secondly, you read the title of the graph, you look at the different axes, the different elements of the graph, and you have to understand what the graph is telling you. You have to clearly understand the graph in order to be able to note down the comparisons and the relevant details. So this is a small pointer or a set of points that we have jotted down which will enable you to determine the topic of the graph or the subject of the graph. So the first one is the task. So the task is basically the instruction, what you're being told to do. Then you have to identify the type of the graph. What type of a graph is it? Then you have to read the title of the graph. The title of the graph is going to give you the information regarding the graph, what the graph is about. Is it a graph regarding cars? Is it a graph regarding food, or whatever the graph is about? The title is going to consist of that information. Then you look at the features. You look at the axes. You look at the different dimensions of the graph. So then you answer the 4 W's. Who, what, when, and where. So these specific 4 aspects will give you insights regarding the content of the graph. So let's show you an example. So here we have a graph. So the graph shows the average daily sales of selected food items at the Vista Cafe by season. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So here, let's try to break down this graph according to those. So the task is this one, what they are telling you to do. So you have to summarize the information, selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So this is your task. Now, we look at the type of the graph. So what type of a graph is this? This is a bar chart. It's pretty straightforward. So you have to be familiar with different types of graphs. Then the title of the graph. So here, this is the title of the graph. Average daily sales by number of servings. So this tells you what the graph is about. The graph is about average daily sales by the number of servings. So who? Now we go into the 4 W's. So who? So one more thing, you may not have all 4 W's in one graph. You may have 2 W's or 3 W's. So don't worry if you don't have a particular dimension of the W. For example, in this graph, we don't have a who because this is not regarding a specific group of people or any particular people. So we don't have a who, but we have a what. So in order to answer what, you have to ask yourself what the graph is about. So the graph is about average daily sales. When? Winter and summer. Here we have 2 dimensions, winter and summer. Where? So we don't have a where here, so we don't need it. And now we have the topic. So the topic is basically the summation of everything. So the average number of servings of certain food items. How do we know it's about food items? You look at the axes. See, you have hot coffee, ice cream. So what are these? These are food items. And here we have the number of servings being sold. So this is the number of servings of certain food items being sold daily in the summer and the winter, identified by 2 different seasons. So that's how you determine the topic. Let's look at another example. Here we have a different type of a graph. So let's break this graph down. So the task is this one, the instruction, what they're telling you to do. So the instructions in most of the parts are same, but the first sentence is not the same because the first sentence is going to tell you what the graph is about. So here the first sentence says that the graph below shows the number of cell phone subscribers in a particular city by gender. So this graph, the first line or the task instruction tells you what the graph is about. The graph is about the number of cell phone subscribers in a particular city by gender, compared by gender. And then the type of the graph. So this is a line graph. You see the lines? This is a line graph. And then the title of the graph. So the title of the graph is here. Cell phone subscribers in Marysville. Marysville is obviously a place. Now, we go into the 4Ws. So here, as you can see, we have all 4Ws. Who? So it's about men and women. What? What is the subject of the graph, which is the number of cell phone subscribers. When? The time period, 1995 to 2015. And where? The location, Marysville. So the topic, as I have said, is the summation of all these information. The number of men and women cell phone subscribers in Marysville from 1995 to 2015. So this alone gives you the whole picture of the graph, what the graph is about, what are the different main features in the graph. So now we move on to the next step, which is making notes about the comparisons. So as I have already mentioned, one of the things that the instruction is going to tell you to do is make comparisons where relevant. So you have to look at the graph and you have to understand that in what dimensions can the graph be divided into two categories or in two sections, and that's where you're going to be able to make comparisons. So let's look at the examples. So as the previous cafe example, so here, if you look at the graph, one way to understand where you can make comparison is by looking at the individual recordings. So here, this is a bar chart, so you look at the bars. So here you can see there are 2 bars. For each food item, there are 2 bars. So this alone tells you that there are 2 comparisons being made. But what is the comparison being made on basis of? It's winter and summer, 2 different seasons. So we are having the sales, average sales of each food items in winter and in summer. So you make the 2 comparisons. The average daily sales of selected food items in the winter and the average daily sales of selected food items in the summer. So that's where the comparisons are being made. So we look at the next example. So just like the previous one, this is a line graph. So you look at the lines, the 2 different lines. So if you look at the 2 different lines, you would know where the comparisons are being made. So the comparison is being made between men and women because there are 2 lines, 1 line for men, 1 line for women. So those are the 2 comparisons that you can make from this graph. The number of cell phone subscribers in different years of male and of female. So the 4th step involves taking down notes about the details. So till now, you have determined the comparisons that you can make in the graph, but now you will have to look for the details that explains these comparisons. So you can't just be like, there are different number of sales of, for example, iced coffee in winter, and in summer, iced coffee is being sold at another number. So you can't just say that because you have identified the comparison, the dimension of comparison of summer and winter, but now you have to make notes of the details which explains each of these comparisons. So you have to note down the details which explains the sales being made in the summer and the sales being made in the winter. That's how you can explain the initial comparisons that you have made. So you have to look at the graph and you have to look for changes, differences, where they are similar, where they are different. So you have to note down those details, jot down those details, and that's going to help you easily write your paragraph when you start writing. So I'll show you one way to do this. So let's look at the cafe example. So one more thing that I have to mention is that you have 2 comparisons. Winter and summer, you have 2 dimensions. So in most graphs, you are going to have 2. You'll be able to make 2 comparisons because they're going to be 2 specters of the graph. So one is for winter, one is for summer. So you have to jot down individual details under each of those comparisons. So, for example, here we are noting down the details for the sales being made in the winter. So for the average daily sales of different food items in the winter, the relevant details that can explain this comparison are as follows. So here we are noting down the details that can be observed for the sales being made in winter. So the first one is we have to look at the winter. So winter is the dark one. So we look at individual winter bars. So you have to, so as this involves sales, so bar charts are usually regarding heights or the number of sales. So here, the comparisons that you're going to make is high or low. So one such detail that you can note down is, for example, the highest number of sales in winter was of hot coffee, which was 75. So this is a sort of detail that you can notice. One more thing you can say is, for example, the item that had the second highest sales was soup, and it was 60 servings sold. So these are the sort of details that you have to jot down. So as you can see here, highest number of sales, hot coffee 75. You don't have to write full sentences. You just write like you just like you're brainstorming. So you just write the keywords. So here, second highest number of sales, soup 50. So that's how you jot down. Lowest number of sales, ice cream, almost close to zero. You don't have to give a numerical value. You just mention it's almost close to zero. So these ways you can jot down the details. Now, similarly, you're going to jot down the details for the summer portion. So you only look at the summer bars, and then you make similar. Then you have to identify similar details. For example, the highest number of sales, which item sold the highest in summer, what was the amount, which item sold second highest in summer or lowest in summer, and these are the relevant details that you can jot down. So, sum up what we have done till now. Just to go about all the relevant important stuff is that the task 1 must be finished within 20 minutes. You have to do your planning, and if you do your planning properly, the writing part will be very easy. So you have to identify the task. You have to determine the topic by looking at the graph type, what the graph is telling you. You have to understand the graph in order to be able to explain the graph. So you have to look at all the elements, look at the axes, look at the title, look at the two dimensions on which it is being compared. So once you have identified the comparisons, you have to look for the details that explain the comparisons. And once you have done all those, you can start writing. So that writing part will be explained in our part 2 video. And you guys might think that why are the videos so long? I can just explain these within 5 minutes. I know I can, but I won't be able to go through it in this much of detail that I'm being able to go through here. So the aim for Lekhapora Online is to give so that this video is a one-stop video for you. If you look at our videos and if you go through our videos, that's it. You don't have to look for other materials in other places. You don't have to go somewhere else to study a different path, a different topic. So we cover everything in details, and that's why the students that we have understand better. So that's why our videos are longer, but it's of good quality. So I hope you guys found our video helpful, and if you guys did, please like, share, and subscribe and help us grow so that we can provide you more videos like these. So once you are done with this video, do check our part 2 and 3 video to have a clear and complete picture of academic writing task 1. Thank you.